preparation for today's conversation about my life as a student and just how important those fundamental and foundational years are as you transform in your career and in the rest of your life. And so it was fun for me to think back to some of that grounding and prepare some of those remarks for you today. I have to tell you that I'm nervous. I do not enjoy public speaking, and so I wish that I was one of those people that can operate just from memory, but I will serve all of you better if I use some of my notes. So I apologize for that in advance. I'm much more comfortable speaking on behalf of my clients most of the time than I am speaking on behalf of me personally. So I do want to share a little bit of background about who I am. My career path. I'll tell you a little bit about our company, what we do, and how we've been successful over the years, what it takes to be a business owner, and then some of the dilemmas that we face on a day-to-day basis in the work that we're doing. And I'm going to try to weave along the way some examples of different ethical dilemmas or leadership challenges that I have faced throughout my career path as well. And so, who am I? I grew up in Elk River, was a farm town, now it's a suburb. It was a small community, yet we had a rather large high school, so I graduated with 425 kids, even though our town was pretty small. Today, all of those high school, or all of those communities that fed into Elk River have their own independent high school, so it's a much different environment today than it was more than 20 years ago. I had the opportunity to be part of a really grounded home environment, and what I mean by that is I had strong values and ethic instilled in me at a very early age, partially and most importantly by my parents, and they're here today, which is super fun. Mike and Linda in the front row. But you know, those values and ethics were instilled in me also through participation in faith, spending time with your grandparents, really choosing to spend time with your friends and network. But that foundational component was really what I believe set me up for a strong career path and a strong moral and ethical foundation. As a student, I was a classic overachiever. I mean, really involved in everything you could possibly imagine. Athletics, I played soccer, I was in student government, I was the class president, student school board member, all those things. Leadership, I dove right into it. I also worked at a young age, really understanding and seeing firsthand with my folks the value of a paycheck. And so I had a job. I had a job all through all of that overachieving. And really, for me, when I reflect back, it was a wonderful time. It was so fun. It was probably some of the most fun time I had in my early years. It was also, I was really burnt out. And so when I went to college, I went to the University of Minnesota. I chose, I went into the Institute of Technology, thinking I was going to be a biochemical engineer. And I decided I was just going to focus on my studies. I was going to dive in, really perform well as a student, and then work in settings that helped me prepare for a career in biology, in chemistry, or whatever that was going to look like at the time. If you probably don't remember, you were all very young, maybe not even born at the time, but Ebola had its first round, and so I wanted to cure the first round of Ebola. So that was really what drove me to go into the Institute of Technology. But that engagement shift was big for me. I started working at the College of Biological Science and really came into one of my first sort of moral dilemmas, I guess you could say. I worked in a cancer lab, and I was doing research on white mice. And I had to terminate the lives of more white mice than I can probably even count. In fact, I was thinking about it. I probably could tell you today exactly how to dissect a white mouse still. Knowing that research that I was performing at that time was really fundamental to cancer research, it sort of got me through the process and maybe some of the uncomfortable thoughts and visions that I still have to this day about white mice. But it really, the part of my thought process was to try to get some education and background in the career field that I was choosing. Fast forward, that didn't work out. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be a scientist. I can't hold down good grades. And I went into business. So I transferred over to the Carlson School of Business, which for me immediately was my natural calling. I felt I could understand accounting principles, I could understand operations. I really had no experience or exposure to marketing or any of the business classes in high school. So it was a whole new world for me, and it was one that I really didn't even know existed. I was thrilled. Growing up in a home where my folks were really busy, my dad was a bricklayer working long days, long hours. My mom was a 911 dispatcher working wild hours and had a really stressful job. I didn't have exposure to small business. I didn't have exposure to business much at all. I had strong work ethic, strong values, but not strong business exposure. And so when I went to the university, I immediately became involved with the mentorship program, where I could learn from CEOs about what it means to run their business. And so that's one of the reasons why it's really fun for me to stand here today and sort of give some of that knowledge back. But Dave Ring, my mentor at the time through the university, is still somebody that's in my network today and is still somebody who I would say was really a very positive impression on me as a young person. So after college, what did I do? Well, my grandpa would say I was kind of a gypsy, so I explored a little bit. I held a number of different jobs, and over the years, I would say in reflection, everything I've done has led me to the success that I've had today as a business person. And a big part of that was, taking in, just drinking out of a fire hose, getting completely engaged in whatever I was doing and trying to find a leadership role within whatever company I was with. I was driven to be successful. Right out of college, I worked for the Target Corporation down in the Twin Cities. I was an uptown girl. I lived in uptown. I took the bus every day and thought that's where I was going to live and stay. Soon enough, I realized a large corporate environment wasn't for me. Neither was managing inventory on a computer all day. But I did learn a lot about what it took to be successful in a corporate environment. So I transitioned into a sales role, which again leveraged a lot of the skills that I just naturally had, an ability to talk to people, an ability to relate to people, just strong moral grounding. And my mom would say I've been in sales since the time I was 4. I don't think I really knew what that meant until now, and I completely get it because I've got a 3-year-old. But just having the ability to convince people to come along with you. Whatever you're working on, building consensus, building momentum, building ideas, that's really what I've done through my entire career. And so whether it was been with Cisco Foods and literally selling food, or selling really a service or data centers. I mean, I have really sold pretty much anything. And what it's all revolved around is relationships. And so that's really key to being a successful leader and a successful business person altogether. One of the things that came, so I moved to Duluth in about 2004, and started working for APEX, the Area Partnership for Economic Expansion, a regional private sector-led economic development organization, which actually College of St. Scholastica is a member of. And that's where I got exposure to a phenomenal boss. My president and CEO, Rob West, was a classic entrepreneur. He was after it. He wanted to just do a data download of all the knowledge he had in his career into my brain, and I soaked it all up. And I knew at that point in time and working for Rob that I wanted to run my own business or run someone else's business. I knew it back in 2006. I just didn't know what that really looked like or what I wanted to run. And so I just kept chugging along in my career. Spent some time lobbying on business, health, and transportation issues, which is a whole different sale and brings up a whole different array of ethics, which I would love to talk about, but I could spend an hour just talking about that. And then, but ultimately, this path led me through community involvement here in Duluth and throughout the region, led me to my current business partner, Pasha, after. Pasha was running Giant Voices, and she was running it on her own, and she really wanted a partner. We had worked together in the business community on a number of different initiatives, again, leadership, volunteer efforts, sat on boards for the Chamber of Commerce. We really had an opportunity to connect on projects and further people's mission. And she said to me, Lisa, hey, I'm looking for a business partner, and I really think you're the one. Will you consider buying into Giant Voices and being my partner? And I was shocked. I literally never in my life thought I would own a marketing firm. It was probably the furthest thing from my idea. I thought I would be part of Sandbulte. I thought I would be part of their management team. So I was thrilled at the opportunity, and I really didn't know what that meant from a risk-reward standpoint. But it's the best decision I ever made. And so I've been with Giant now for going on 4 years, which has gone by really fast. Lynn and I were chatting about that. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. So we own an ambition-based strategic marketing firm. We work with our clients to help them grow their brand and increase their revenues. And really, we're a full-service marketing firm located here in Duluth. Although we have really been Giant Voices for 4 years, we bought out a previous company that had a 30-year stake in the region. So many of our clients have been with us for 35 years. Not personally with me, obviously, but they've been with us that long. So strong reputation in the region, and one of the things that people, they ask me, what do you do for your clients? We work with our clients really to help them solve big problems relating to their brand or relating to sales revenue. And whether that's public relations, branding, advertising, website development, social media, we really craft whatever the right mix of ingredients is to help them be successful for their overall ambition. And what I spend most of my day doing, in addition to running the business as the president and reviewing and hiring new people, I spend my time with my clients in helping create sales and marketing alignment processes, which is so fun for me. Again, never would have thought that was what I would end up doing. People always ask, hey, who are some of your clients? What are you guys doing? And so I love to talk about our clients. It's my favorite thing. My favorite part of my job is working with our clients to help them solve those problems. This is just a snapshot of who some of our clients are, and we generally work with 40 or so clients at a time. We work with clients across a broad spectrum of business to consumer clients and to business. In a region like ours, specializing in one area was a consideration for us as a business, but we really like the variety. And it's nice to have, if one industry is not doing well, you can rely on the success of another industry to keep your business afloat, right? So these are just some brands we've developed and clients that we're working with. A lot of people ask you, where are they, and what types of sectors are you working in? And we're really located, most of our clients, probably 80% of our clients are within Minnesota. Not just the Twin Ports, we're in the Twin Cities all the time. And then the rest have locations throughout the country. And so I spend a lot of time on the road. It's part of my job. It's part of my job to be in front of our clients. The 3 sectors that we spend most of our time in are in more of what we'll call industrial, which is manufacturing, mining, those sorts of types of businesses, and then technology and energy. So much of what people always say, oh, I've never heard of some of your clients. What do? Well, they manufacture slurry pumps, or they manufacture and sell software as a service, SD-WAN technology. What the heck is that, right? We think that is the best business to be in. A lot of the times, folks that we're talking to are like, oh, that's not very sexy. We think it's super sexy. So just wanted you to know. I'll show you just a couple examples of the types of work that we do. Wells Concrete, we rebranded them. They're a company out of the Twin Cities. We now just refer to them as Wells. They're a precast company, really based in the Maple Grove area. They have offices all over Minnesota. We rebranded them, repositioned them, helped them execute all of the branding collateral that they needed to completely shape a new look and feel for the company and go after new markets. So we've been part of their team. Also, maybe one of my sexy clients here is 3rd Street Brew House. They're a division of Cold Spring Brewing Company. Does anybody know where Cold Spring, Minnesota is? Cold Spring Brewing Company? Okay. Cold Spring is a tiny little town outside of St. Cloud. This company, Cold Spring Brewing Company, has been around forever, like 120 years, brewing beer. And they launched a new brand, 3rd Street Brew House, about 3 years ago, and they weren't moving product. We came in as a strategic advisor to help them think about the name, their brand, their position in the marketplace, and have helped them not only reposition their product set, but also their sales strategy. And so again, back to that sales and marketing alignment. And in addition, we are helping them on the creative side as well. Sometimes we'll come in and we'll work with the client only on strategy. So we're helping them dissect their sales process and their brand values. We may be helping them assess. And then others, we're taking all of that strategy side and transitioning it into creative with purpose, as we call it. We're going to see that slide again. I'm going to come back to it. So one of the secrets to, I think, really, I believe our success as a firm has been our team. Without our team, we could not accomplish really any of the work that we do. It's fundamental that we have a strong team that has values that are consistent with ours, and a team that we can rely on when we're not there because we're gone a lot. So our team, we got about 20 folks. Most of them are here. We have a couple remote. They wear hats. Our giants, we call them giants. We use that term playfully, both internally and externally. But our giants really wear a lot of hats as a small team. Although typically they're wearing a strategy hat, they're wearing a client leadership hat. They're graphic designers. They're website developers, they're social media specialists, media placement specialists. That's really the types of roles that they hold. But one of the things that I love about our team, we work really hard, we have a lot of fun, and we get great work done for our clients. And to me, that's what it's all about. That's where you strive to in your career, and I feel really, really lucky that this is my 40th year, celebrate my 40th birthday, that at 40 I can say that I've achieved what I never really even knew my career was all about. So one of the things that I want to talk about is those brand values. And our brand values is how we review, reward, and recognize our people. It's also how we talk about internally and externally our work. And so I'll walk through those values with you because I think, again, this is what's helped us be successful. Our team must possess this. I must display this. in order for us to be successful. Number one is ambition. Now, I would guess that there's a lot of ambition in this room already. And so leveraging and harnessing that ambition for yourself is really important. Leveraging and harnessing that ambition for our firm is important. And then also, and most importantly, for our clients. Because if we're not doing great, ambitious work for our clients, then they're not going to hire us. So that is really critical, and it's the most critical. The other thing about this is, anticipating our clients' needs and ensuring that final product is not good, it's not great, but it's giant. And so that ambition is something that we hold very near and dear. Second is creative. Well, we're a creative services firm, so we better be creative, right? But it's not just creativity in terms of, it's not just creativity in terms of the display of our final product, right? But it's creativity in terms of problem solving, being resourceful, being thrifty and efficient, creating with purpose, and being inventive. One thing that I can tell you is that my industry will look entirely different in 3 years, right? And so how do we stay ahead of the curve as a business? So having that creativity and that inventiveness is absolutely critical. Third thing is excellence. So this is the hardest one. Transparently, this is the hardest one for us. Excellence every single time. Putting out a product, speaking to a client, communication with a vendor. Excellent every single time. Dot your I's, cross your T's, attention to detail. We don't have a lot of room for mistakes, right? And so you don't want to see a billboard with a spelling error on it. I don't ever want to see that. And so that attention to detail is something that we really strive to every single day. Read it again, and read it from the client perspective, not just from a proofing perspective. So taking pride in that part of our work is so instrumental. Third or fourth is passion, and I would guess that you would think I'm pretty passionate about my job. Love it. Passion, bringing that passion to our clients is one of our unique competitive advantages. We love what we do, and we love what our clients do. It's really being part of being passionate not only about giant voices again, but about slurry pumps and data centers and propane. Really things that you wouldn't think every single day you're excited about. Got to display that passion for our client. And the great thing is, because at the end of the day, it's really about relationships. And if you're passionate about the relationship that you have with your client, you become passionate about their product or service. And it's really easy to display that passion then in the work that we're doing. Last is fun, and that's fun. We have a lot of fun. We don't have a ping pong table, we're not Mad Men fun, although our new office might be Mad Men fun, actually. But we're not talking about making sure you're playing ping pong or, this one.
Foosball.
Thank you, foosball. It's about being the fun part of our client's day. And what do I mean by that? So we're a professional service. We get paid a fee. We get paid a decent, respectable fee to do the work that we're doing. And at the end of the day, we get sort of bucketed on the ledger we're in the same bucket as, an attorney, an accountant. We want to be the fun part of our client's professional services day. We want to make sure they're smiling when we walk in the door and when we walk out. We want to make sure we're delivering that value and having fun. And so that is what fun really means to us. And so when we should stop for a moment and do a quick timeout and say, here's where I've started to do some slide management. My wonderful graphic design team has helped me with the first part, and I've sort of done a few others. So full disclosure, this is Lisa's creativity come into play, but this is actually a snapshot of the mural that we're putting in our new office. So you guys are getting to see it before some of our team members. But it's really pulling together all of our brand values to help our company thrive. And if we're helping our company thrive and our clients thrive, then our community is going to thrive. And that, for me, is just, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't get better than that, right? We get to be part of a thriving downtown, a thriving Duluth, and really, help provide great income opportunities for our giants. So that's, really it sums up what has helped us be successful. Strong values, strong ethics, strong attention to detail along the way. So when I was thinking about some of the pros and cons of being a business owner, I spent most of my career being an employee, so this is still pretty new for me to reflect on. And definitely one of the pros for me is really just the ownership. Everything that we're doing affects me, affects my family, affects my son's ability to be successful down the road. And so that ownership, that sense of ownership, I've always had it when I've worked for other people, but I even have a stronger sense of ownership in everything I do now. The other is control of my own destiny. I really get to say the clients, I have say in the clients that we're going to work with, which is also really lucky. Not everybody does have that say. But to determine, are we going to build in downtown Duluth, or should we look at Superior, Wisconsin? Or should we maybe expand in Minneapolis and keep our small, nimble, low-cost operation here in Duluth? But really being able to decide what we're going to do and move with my business partner has been so fun to have that control of our own destiny. On the flip side, the cons, they're the same thing. Ownership, boy, it's on these shoulders, right? You have a bad year and you lose a big client. Boy, we've got to make some decisions. Do we pay ourselves, or do we let somebody go on our team? Those are really hard decisions to have to make on a day-to-day basis. So that ownership is awesome, and there's a lot of responsibility in that too, and those are tough days. And with control of your own destiny too. If it was just me choosing how to present to a client and the conversation that would take place with the client, if it was only me, I wouldn't have to worry about what was being said or what was being delivered. But really, as you grow and expand, you have to have trust in your team to carry those same values and ethics and responsibility in every meeting and every interaction. We talk about that as being giant in our environment. And so absolutely being a giant brand advocate with the community and with our clients is so important. And that's our way of trying to control that destiny, but I've really had to give up some of that control to our team and put it in their hands to carry some of that business forward. And that's really where you'll have an opportunity to impact your career, and whether you're a business owner down the road or when you're working for someone else, making sure that you're really aligned with their values as a company. When you're interviewing, even when you're intern interviewing, ask them what their values are. I love that question. If they don't have them stated, they might still have some that are important to them, but if they don't have them, think about it, right? Because there's nothing that you can ground and find alignment in. So when we talk about what makes successful entrepreneurs, business owners, again, I'm only in year 4, so I can share with you what I've seen in other colleagues, and I can share with you what we've seen in the environment, but I will absolutely agree with this list. Vision is critical. You have to understand where you're going. You have to have a roadmap, right? Here's where we want to get to, set an ambition, and then you track back to it. So that visionary is so important. I've never really thought of myself as a visionary. I'm a really great executor. Never thought that I wanted to be a CEO, right? I didn't. That's really for my partner. It's her wheelhouse, the vision, the inventiveness, the creativity. I've always thought of myself as that executor or that second in command. Yet, the more that I work with visionaries, the more visionary I become. And so it's leveling up, it's stepping up to the folks that you surround yourself with. Passion, we already talked about that. Decision making. I can't tell you how many decisions I make on a daily basis. It makes me crazy. I get home and my husband will say, what do you want for dinner? Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? I'm like, I don't care. You pick. I don't want to make another decision. Not one. So decision making, rapid decision making, filtering that decision making, again, through your values, through your ethics, through your company's ambition, is so important. It just happens. You have to be able to weigh, very difficult decisions, again, every single day. Leadership, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Character, so that's what you're all developing here, big part of it, right? You're still in your very formative years for character development. The other two that I think are important that maybe don't get talked about as much in a corporate environment is, first, risk tolerance is really something that doesn't get talked about in a corporate environment. Having the ability to take risks, put your name on the dotted line. I just had to sign a personal guarantee for our new building that we're building out. Boy, if we don't make that loan, guess whose house they're coming after? Mine, right? So risk tolerance, knowing that I don't have anybody else to rely on except for my business partner, myself, and our business to help me get through those financial risks, right? Hiring new people, that's a risk. Is this person going to work out? I don't know. It seems like they answer all the questions, right? But having the ability to take risks on new people, stepping up. And then education, very critical. Lifelong learning. Sitting in your seat 20 years ago, I don't know that I fully understood the value of education and the value of preparing myself to practice. I think about education as preparation. You are practicing the practice of learning every single day. I have to learn on the fly every time I meet with a new client. What is their business? Who are their target audiences? What do they care about? I have to do that digest of reading, consuming, filtering, coming up with the narrative so fast, so frequently. So take the time to enjoy this practice of learning that you're in right now. Because you're going to do it, and I'll tell you what, you're going to write. No matter what your job is, you're going to write. You're going to have to learn how to write. And so I know that in undergrad, that's typically a big part of what you're doing is writing, whether it's papers or summaries. I spend, as the president of my company and working with clients on a day-to-day basis, I bet 40% of my time is spent writing, whether that's responding to clients, whether that's responding to requests for proposal, whether that's writing a blog, because I still do like to do that stuff to keep me sharp. So practice that writing. It's really, really important. And so that preparation stage that you're in right now is really one that leads you to that next stage of practice in your career. And so, what else do we need to practice? I think we need to practice leadership. Like it's incumbent upon all of us, and College of St. Scholastica does a fine job, a really an amazing job of preparing leaders for our global market. And what that leadership, this leadership component is, it's just such a fundamental component of, for me, hiring any new employee, taking on any new client, taking on any new board engagement opportunity or volunteer opportunity. This is really important. These types of This is another slide I put together, obviously. There's, commitment to what you're working on, listening, being passionate again, practicing, preparing, being engaged, and having courage to say things that may be difficult to say. Those are all different components of leadership that I think are really important. The number one thing is integrity. You really, all you have is that, right? So do what you say you're going to do. Commit to it. Follow through. That is number one. There's only one thing to do there. Just do what you say you're going to do. And I cannot tell you how many people don't do that. I think that's why we're really successful, because when we compete with other businesses, I don't think they do what they say they're going to do all the time. And then when we come in and save the day and do, it's like we're rock stars. We never lose clients when we do what we say we're going to do. And so the other thing that I want to talk about, and this gets into some of the dilemmas, that moral compass. So the other thing, this is, you're setting it again right now, but the moral compass, think reminding ourselves that not everybody has that same moral compass. We all grew up differently. We all have different backgrounds, different experiences, different filters. And so, not everyone's definition is the same when it comes to morality or ethics. And so a lot of the times, like I mentioned as an example of understanding a future employer's values, you may want to understand what a future colleague's definition of integrity is, or definition of preparation. Ask those questions. What do you mean by that? Ask your boss. Ask your colleague, if you're ask your project mates when you're working on projects. Like, what's your expectation of me for this role? And so that's one thing that I have found my definition of integrity is not everybody else's definition. So, dilemmas. Dilemmas. This is fun. This is really fun. So here's what I want it to really get engaging. So we face them every single day. As I was, again, preparing for this presentation, I realized how many dilemmas that I face really in an hour. Whether it's as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a colleague, friend, you name it. There's lots of them. And it's not just about, whether to take the last donut, which is what my son's doing here in this picture. It is, but that's a dilemma, right? Like, that's a Minnesota nice dilemma. I would say, we're just going to take the last bite. But really, do you drive if you don't have a driver's license? Do you get behind the wheel of a car, right? Do you wear a helmet? If it's the law, like all those dilemmas, right, are part of our day-to-day. Do you post pictures on Facebook when you're on vacation and you've got cocktails in your hand, right? Do you post anything on Facebook? And so these are the types of, if I think back to when I was a student and some of the dilemmas that I would have faced, it is a much different environment for you today than it was for me 20 years ago. Think about that, because we don't even really know what the ramifications are. So posting on your Instagram, posting really anything, comments, we have no idea what the long-term ramifications of that are. And so thinking about that as you're going to be interviewed by an employer, potential employer, as you're going into your next, if you're going for an MBA or for law school, whatever that might be, you're going to be interviewed. And I tell you what, the first thing I do when I'm looking at an employee, let me see what they're doing on Instagram. Oh, what are they doing on Facebook? Boy, I'm telling you what, if you're doing a bunch of shots on your Facebook page, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not even going to interview you. Because you, as an employee, become my brand, right? And so I didn't have that problem. That didn't exist for me when I was looking for jobs. So those are dilemmas that I think face you guys today. Putting this slide back up, just curious for, especially for you marketing students, if any type of dilemma comes up when you see this slide, what dilemmas might I be facing as an employer with this slide? Anybody want to jump in? I won't wait too long. Go ahead.
It looks like a kid's sneakers on a beer can.
Oh, interesting. It's fun for me to see what comes up for people. It's interesting. I have a couple that come up for me, probably was more of the filter of business owner. Number one, are these logos trademarked, right? Are these images copyrighted? Do I have the permission to even show these to you as a room? What about an alcohol client, right? Even though we consider 3rd Street Brewhouse a manufacturing company, which they are, you should see their amazing production facility. What about taking them on as a client? What about design, copyright infringement? Boy, have we done all of our due diligence to make sure there are no other beer cans in the whole country that look like this, right? So that is a common dilemma as we're creating logos for clients. We have to create something new, right? And so how do you do that exhaustive research? Other examples that come up for me all the time is confidentiality, a conflict of interest, right? So I might have a client that is working in an industry that is a mining client, right? I have mining clients. So I have a mining client, and then I have a brewery client that depends on clean water. Are those interests aligned? That's a conflict of interest potential, right? And so those are the types of conflicts that we see every day. We see public relations conflicts. Maybe a client wants you to not let some information get into the public media, right? They might not want consumers to find something out. Do I help them? Or do I help them think about a different way of accomplishing maybe even a different objective they haven't even thought about? Those are the types of client dilemmas that I face every single day. What if it's a situation where my business is not doing great and I'm either looking at, well, I may have to downsize or I may have to onboard a client that I don't agree with? That is a dilemma that thankfully I have not had to face. But don't think for a second that I don't believe that better be something I think about, right? And so, initiating leadership, how do you move? How do you move with this, right? How do you take what you're doing at College of St. Scholastica and really expand your leadership and expand maybe into business ownership and entrepreneurship? And I would say, getting engaged, right? So engage in student government or in student activities that help you learn how to actually lead. You're engaging in the practice of learning about leadership, and so putting that leadership to test is the only way that you're going to keep getting better. So volunteering. I volunteer today. I sit on a number of boards of directors. They're the Northland Foundation, APEX, Area Partnership for Economic Expansion, and St. Luke's. I practice my engagement, my civic engagement, and my responsibility to my community and those boards, right? And so it's also how I learned a great amount of the knowledge that I have in my, really at the back, at my fingertips and in the back of my mind. And also, thinking about projects of passion. Maybe it's just something. Maybe you want to start a blog and you want to commit to it about, outdoor activities or how great the gems are along the North Shore. I don't know. Commit to a project. Lead it. Take part in it. If you're working as an intern or if you're employed, lead an initiative. Ask to lead, co-lead. And then finally, I would say mentorship. If you don't have a mentor, find one. So important, especially for those of you that maybe have a different you have a different experience growing up where you're sitting in this room today and you're saying, gosh, I didn't really, you're sitting in the same seat I sat in. I didn't know really anything about marketing management. I didn't know anything. So the only reason I was exposed to any of that was really through mentorship. And so those are really some of the things that I thought I would leave you with today. And I am here for Q&A. A few minutes anyway. I know I didn't answer every question that you might have. Don't be shy.
What do you do to get in front of a client for the first time? How do you get those clients that are across country?
That's a good question. Well, I feel pretty lucky to say that most of our business is all through referral. So in some cases, we've done really great work for our clients, and then they leave and go to another business and they bring us with. And so we'll still do work with the previous client and then move with them to a new employer or a spin-off organization. Rarely are we're pretty quiet. We're pretty quiet because we've been growing so fast. And so we're really only taking on new work that we know we can manage. But as we move into a new building and we take on some new costs, we will have to think about how we expand our lead generation strategy. But it's primarily through doing good work for other clients.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
What types of education do your current employees have? What kind of, what are their backgrounds?
Yeah, that's a good question. So pretty much most of our giants have, trying to think of how many I've hired. So I think that we have maybe 3 or 4 people that have been left from the previous organization. And most of my new hires are pretty young. They're students with some sort of marketing background. Mostly graphic design, but then have pivoted into like a digital marketing position or social media position. I do have a couple of giants that have a master's in communication. So again, we do a lot of writing, we do a lot of strategy, we do a lot of planning, and so that's been helpful for us. I think that pretty much sums up. There's functional expertise. Our developers have website development backgrounds, and our graphic designers have pure graphic design background. Most of them, I've hired only one that doesn't have a college degree, and he had a technical degree in graphic design. But otherwise, they've all had 4-year. Thanks. Yeah.
How do you recruit talent?
That is another good question. Well, we do. So many of our openings have been pretty entry level, but even when they're entry level, because we wear so many hats, it's not they're not easy positions to fill. And so we do a lot of recruiting through North Force, which is, if you don't know North Force, northforce.org. If you're looking to get engaged with the business community, it's what we use for Giant Voices to assess, sort of query who's available through North Force, and then we get back some resumes. We do use social media, and once in a while we'll use a recruiter, but for the most part we're pretty much social media and through our network. We have not had a ton of problems finding people. We've had 1 or 2 folks that we didn't have a strong scope of work or roles and responsibility outlined for, that maybe were misses for us. But otherwise, we've had great success in finding talent here. Yes.
When you're working through some of the ethical dilemmas that you talked about, do you have a series of questions that you ask yourself, or can you maybe expand a little bit more on how you go about resolving those for yourself?
Yeah. So I think we do a lot of that automatically as humans. You know, we operate in that subconscious state of decision making so often that even I find myself doing that in like an ethical dilemma type of a situation as well, where you just know, nope, this client is not going to be a good fit for us, or this project might be better suited for somebody else, or, you know, I really think I have to let this person go. So a lot of that kind of is a gut check, just filtered through my experiences in life. And then we do actually run our clients through a filter. And one of my probably most difficult situations is actually firing a client. And even though at the time we really wanted the work and it was good work for our firm to do, we didn't have alignment in values at the leadership level, right? And so we took apart some of our core values that were externally facing, and we ran the client situation through those, and it was so apparent, right? It was an easy conversation to have actually at that point in time, because it just did not align with our external values through client relationships, which are passion, execution, and partnership. And so if we don't have that, we can't really be successful. So that really goes back to the challenge in terms of, I think for you all, is whether that's a board engagement or a project leadership opportunity or a job, you know, what are their values, and how do you align or maybe not align? Does that answer your question? Okay.
And how do you make sure that the employees that you're hiring are also on board with your values? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we speak those values when we are interviewing people, and we actually ask them to, when they come back for a second interview, talk with us about how they align. So, you know, while you just saw the words up on the screen, we really do have a background on each of those values. And so when I get into a second round of interviews, I'll ask them to consider, you know, here's our brand values, and why don't you let me know how you align with these. I want to hear how your values align with these. And when we instituted those values, it was probably almost 3 years ago, when Pasha and I agreed on those together and really started to move those through the organization. We realized we were helped along the way through a consultant we've worked with, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Traction, which is a really great book for business owners. She's told us, you know, look, here's the deal. When you launch these values, you're going to have people that are going to push back. They're not going to fit. And in fact, they'll probably self-select out. And if they don't self-select out, you might have to let them go, but they'll probably self-select out if you just give it enough time. It was like magic. Literally, like the team that didn't align with our values just decided that they weren't going to stay. And that's really good for everyone. Really, it is. You know, I don't like to let people go. It's the worst part of my job. But if you don't align with our values, it doesn't mean you're not a good person. It just means that maybe there's something else out there for you. And oftentimes we help people find something else if it's not a good job for them. Now, I'm making it sound like we actually don't have much turnover. We haven't had hardly any turnover, because we do review, reward, and recognize on those values. It's really clear right from the start. Any others? It was really fun. Thanks for having me here and spending an hour with me.